Today I have a special video for those of you that own martial arts schools. You may have noticed that recently we've relaunched our Student Spotlight video series. If this is something you're looking to implement in your own school, I've filmed a behind the scenes which will take you through the whole process from start to finish. Now you could just continue watching this video right here, or if you want some additional information without having to opt into anything, you can go over to videomarketingfundamentals.com/spotlight. I hope you enjoy. Recently I brought back my Student Spotlight here at our martial arts school, and what that is it's an opportunity to highlight the students through video that have shown extraordinary dedication and commitment to the martial arts. And so today we shot a video, and what I want to do is take you behind the scenes. I want to go through what's involved in the process of putting a video like this together. So the first thing, the preliminary, before we really get into the actual production and post-production process, first thing is you got to make sure you have somebody that wants to be on camera. I don't recommend, if you're doing something like this, and this doesn't have to be just for a martial arts school, by the way, this could be you're highlighting different customers that have achieved various results in whatever your business is. But of course, you want somebody that is comfortable being on camera, somebody that wants to be on camera. I have students that have said no, they don't want to do it. That's fine. I'll try to highlight their dedication in other ways. That being said, so first thing, make sure you have somebody that wants to be on camera, and if it's a kid, make sure you have parental permission. Now, we're in the sort of still kind of pre-production phase. We have to figure out where are we going to shoot the video. What's the background going to be? And to be honest, you'll see, I think we could have done a little better job here. We had people were in the dojo. This was before a class. And so we were kind of limited in where we could really position ourselves. If we had the time and we had the space, I probably would have created a little bit more background separation than we did. But I think the footage that we got will suffice. So that's part of the final stages. You have to determine where are you going to shoot the video. A lot of people kind of skip this. They just turn the camera on, shoot it wherever. Try to find a background that you think is going to add to the story you're trying to tell, that's going to enhance the video. Okay, so once you have that in place, we had a lapel mic. I had another lapel mic that we used to mic up our talent, our student in this case. And so we got our audio set. And then before we even really started rolling, I got him talking. I wanted to have just a conversation so that, you know, when the camera turns on, people sometimes clam up. They don't want to talk. They get nervous. So I wanted him to start seeing what the conversation was supposed to be before the conversation actually had to take place, before the pressure of the camera came into play. So we had a conversation. I started asking him some questions. I told him these are the kind of things I'm going to ask you once we hit record. And you don't have to get it perfect. We'll go around a couple times and we'll make sure we have what we need. And so that's what I did. I would ask him one question, he'd give me an answer. Sometimes in a later question that would lead into something else that might connect with the first answer. In some instances we went back and I said, hey, could you re-explain both of these things together for me? And I think we had sufficient footage. Here is the last sort of stage. After you've got your A-roll, the next thing that you want to do that's going to make your life a million times easier is capture B-roll. This is the footage you're going to overlay on top of your A-roll to both enhance the quality of the interview and also allow you to pick and choose what parts of the interview you want to keep. Meaning we can now make cuts without it being visible in the final product. And so that's the beauty of having B-roll. And we've talked about this earlier in the course when we were looking, if you've gone through the actual video shooting concepts course, we talked about B-roll. This is the power of B-roll, and you can never have too much. Try to capture as much footage as you can. You might not use a lot of it, but it's better to have too much and to have those options in place than to sit down to edit and say, okay, we have to go back and we have to capture more footage. Now this was done before class. I captured some B-roll during class. And so the reality here is we might have to go back. We might still have to get some more footage. But if you're shooting, say you actually schedule a shoot, you're gonna have more time to really get everything done that you need. Okay, so that's the process. We have We actually conducted our interview. We shot some B-roll. Now let's look at what we have. And today what I'm going to use is PowerDirector. The other program that I might use on a project like this is DaVinci Resolve. If you're looking for a more professional piece of video editing software, I would recommend DaVinci Resolve. You don't have to pay monthly fees. They're not paying me to say this. It's a great video editing software. A lot of what you learn in PowerDirector, if you start with PowerDirector, it's going to be, and the truth is, it's probably just about any video editing software you start with. A lot of it's going to be very similar if you get into a program like DaVinci Resolve. I don't want to badmouth Adobe. I've just never gone in that direction. I have not used Adobe personally because I just don't want to pay a monthly fee. So those are the two programs I recommend. I think PowerDirector is very intuitive if you're just starting out. I think it has a lot of the features that a professional video editing program has, but it's a little bit more intuitive if you're not familiar with what you need to look for in video editing software. So there's my recommendation with regards to software. Let's get our program open. Let's look at our footage. Let's see what we have to work with. All right, so I'm gonna open up PowerDirector and I'm gonna open up the timeline mode. It's telling me I have an upgrade. I'll have to do that after. Now, what I need to do actually is I need to open up my folder, my Student Spotlight folder, because I'm just going to grab everything here and I'm going to drag it in. You can import multiple ways. We've looked at this in our video editing course. This is identifying that it can't load the zip folders. I knew that going in there. I already have the music pulled out of the zip folders, so I figured I'd just let it give me the error message. So I have a couple different musical tracks that I looked for beforehand. So this is another step that we are going to kind of skip. You want to have, I recommend you have music. We've looked at where you can go to purchase music so that you're not violating any copyright laws. We've done that in the past. Now what we need to do is I have a couple of clips here that contain our discussion. And so I'm going to drag them in the timeline. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to listen to these. I'm going to spare you having to go through that process with me. I'm going to listen to these, and let's say this is a section where he said something that I think is potentially going to be something that I want to keep in the video. I'll cut the sections that I want. And I'm going to keep going through and cutting up the footage in that manner until I have all the dialogue that could be potentially usable dialogue. I'm not going to skip anything that I think might be usable this first time through. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to see how much footage do we actually have that I might want to include in this video. And once I have all the footage I need, now I'm going to start cutting out the fat, and I'm going to get things in place. I'm also listening based on what I know I captured as the B-roll too, because different cuts will be easier if I have B-roll to kind of fill in certain components of the video, certain missing pieces. Okay, so let me get going on that, and I'll see you in a moment. Okay, so I've cut up the footage and I've actually cut out the fat. There were some redundancies, some do-overs that we had, and I picked the ones that were the best at this point. And you can see right now we have 52 seconds. A lot of even this 52 seconds might be cut out. It might be really 30 seconds of dialogue, but we can space out the dialogue. Now, the way that the footage is currently placed in the timeline is actually the order that it was recorded, but this is a video, so we can change things if it will help enhance the flow of the story that's being told. So the first thing I want to show you, I'll zoom in just a little. Here's our first clip as of right now.
One day my mom asked me if I wanted to do karate, and then I said yes, and then when I started it, I had liked it, and then I wanted to keep doing it. I started karate when I was 4 years old, and now I've been doing it for 7 years.
Okay, so that's the first clip. Let's switch these I could have just done an insert and pushed everything over, but let's switch these up because I think this is going to be a nice way to start it. And I'm going to turn my volume up a little. Okay.
I started karate when I was 4 years old, and now I've been doing it for 7 years. One day my mom asked me,
Let's see.
doing it for 7 years. One day my mom asked me if I want.
I think.
One day my mom asked.
I was trying to cut out his
One day my mom asked me if.
Let's see if that sounds better.
One day my mom asked me if I.
That's better. So it's all a matter of timing. Right there, I had originally cut out his but I cut it too far. The one wasn't sounding quite right to me. So I pulled it back and I recut it to get the timing right. It's all about timing in this. So I think this is a good starting point.
I started karate when I was 4 years old, and now I've been doing it for 7 years. One day my mom asked me if I wanted to do karate, and then I said yes, and then when I started it, I had liked it, and then I wanted to keep doing it.
All right, that I think can actually go because there's not much story there. Now we know he's been doing it for a while. That first part of the video to me is important. Like, wow, that's dedication. You started when you were really young. You stuck with it for 7 years. But one day my mom asked me if I wanted to do it, and I did it. And I don't know how much story, potential that has. So we're going to delete that for now. If I need it, I can, you know what? I'll just move it over here. I don't think we're going to use it. I could potentially cut something out, like one day my mom asked me if I wanted to do karate, and
I started karate when I was 4 years old.
And then maybe it could cut to that or something. Like you could rework things and take bits of dialogue and reposition them like we're kind of doing here. But I'm guessing I'm not going to use that clip. So now what's this one?
My favorite part is when we learn new techniques and then we go and practice them with partners. Someday I'd like to get my black belt, and if about karate is like you get to make a lot of new friends.
All right, so I think we'll do this. Now stuff's going to get moved once I pull the music in, once I start getting the B-roll in. That's going to affect the timing of everything. Right now I'm just trying to get the dialogue in the order that I want it so that I can then start adding those other layers. But at least I know this is what the conversation is supposed to be. And then from there I can work to enhance that conversation. So.
Old, and now I've been doing it for 7 years. One thing I like about karate is like you get to make a lot of new friends.
Then what do we have here?
My favorite part is when we learn new techniques and then we go and practice them with partners. Someday I'd like to get my black belt, and if I ever do, then I'd be pretty proud of myself and like happy that I've gotten that far.
Okay, let's see what this last one is.
I've stayed in karate for this long because, well, I think it's like pretty fun, and I have friends that do it also, and it's fun to like see them because most of the time I don't. And I just think it's fun to keep learning all these new cool techniques and stuff.
Okay, so I've listened to all of it again, and I think it's pretty much going to stay in the order it's in. I'm going to keep it pretty short, and I'm just going to pile these clips in because I think there are some redundancies here. He likes techniques, got it. So I think this is going to be the story. And if we actually, I'm just curious, if we want to check, it's going to be currently 24 seconds, but that might change. Stuff might get pushed out as B-roll comes in, and this isn't just listening to him talk. We're going to actually watch different stuff happening. So the next step is I'm going to go through the B-roll now. And again, I'm going to spare you the tedious nature of watching me scrub through each clip, but I'm going to look through the B-roll and I'm going to cut out the footage that I think is usable, the footage that I think looks best and is going to make the story come across in the most powerful manner possible. So I'm going to take care of that, and then we'll see what I find. All right, I've gone through, I've edited the B-roll, I have the footage that we're going to work with. We have our music in the editor. I'm going to grab that and drag that down on the timeline in a moment. I've also gone to Facebook and I've grabbed a couple of photos that are from an event that we hosted back in, I think it was 2011. So whatever business you're in, there's the advantage of actually documenting what's going on in your business. Whether it's through video or photos, you have stuff that you can use as a resource in the future. You can put together some nostalgic videos, some sentimental videos, and if this doesn't mean too much to him now, down the road, being able to look back, being able to see, you know, this is where I was as a little kid, this is where I was as I was starting to get older. I mean, that's special. I wish, going back in time, that I had more footage of me when I was a kid doing martial arts. But again, this isn't something that can just be applied to a martial arts business. You can find plenty of ways in any business. So let's look at what we have and let's start trying to edit something together. Because right now, if we were to just take the audio and we were to throw music on it, it's really not that much. You know, it's nothing special. But what we want to do is visually tell a story as well. And so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the music. Now, in general, I avoid corporate music, but I actually kind of like this. I thought it had a nice upbeat tune to it. And so I'm going to drag it down on the timeline. And first thing we're going to have to do is reduce the volume of this clip because it's going to be much, much louder than the audio from his dialogue. The other thing that I did when I was looking for music for this was I wasn't looking for anything too over the top. I was looking for background music. That's why this says corporate background upbeat. I wanted it to be positive music, but I wanted it to be background music, so it's pretty consistent and we're not in a position where the music is taking over. So if I actually click play, you can see that's way too loud. So first thing we're going to do is I'm just going to grab it and I'm going to drag it way, way, way down. And we'll see how this sounds. All right, so I tried to adjust the music by just grabbing it and dragging it down. That was giving me some problems because I was really trying to fine tune it. So I opened up the audio mixing room. I've reduced the audio, and now let's actually grab this clip, and I'm going to push this over, and I'm going to open up the power tools, it's called. I'm going to crop in on this. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to push this over. I want to listen to the music. When's the music start?
I started karate when I was 4 years old, and now I've been doing it for 7 years.
Now the next thing I'm going to do, because I don't want to go right to the audio, we've seen him as a little kid. Let's show something with him as he is now, as an older kid. So let's grab one of these clips. Let's see how this works, and I'll just swing that in here. I'm going to move these out of the way for a second, and let's look at what that...
I started karate when I was 4 years old, and now I've been doing it for 7 years.
I grabbed the wrong clip. I'm looking for jumping jacks. Okay, here we go. We'll grab this, drag it over.
I started karate when I was 4 years old, and now I've been doing it for 7 years.
Now I'm going to listen to the music. There's some beats with the music, so I want to get the jumping jacks to kind of end up on a beat is when we cut to the next clip. This is why I dragged the music in before I added the B-roll, because I wanted to use the music as sort of a guide for cutting up the footage. Okay, we'll see how that looks. Let's cut that end off. Now what's he say next?
One thing I like about karate is you get to make a lot of new friends.
Okay, let's see how this pacing is. I'm going to drag this clip in. And
I started karate when I was 4 years old, and now I've been doing it for 7 years. One thing I like about karate is like you get to make a lot of new friends.
okay. What's interesting is I might almost not even show him in the interview. So we framed the shot nice. We tried to. I mean, it's not the best shot. I'm not the most proud of this particular shot, but we took time to try to find a decent background. And I'm just listening to him talk, and I'm thinking, well, a lot of what he's saying, I might be able to actually just, this is him kind of talking, and you're seeing his clips. I'm not sure how I'll feel about that in the end, but that's potentially one thing. Another thing that I'm seeing is we have the jumping jacks, and what I want to try is I'm going to pull a clip of him doing push-ups in there. I'm going to see if I can shorten the jumping jacks and kind of increase the rhythm of the cuts so that you're not just watching him do jumping jacks for too long, but you can see him do a couple of exercises before we cut to the next scene. And this is the process. I mean, if you gave me a project, if you showed me a video that I put together and you give me the footage, I can rebuild that video in a very short period of time. But the creative process means you're going to try different things. You're going to play around with the timing of different things. You're going to play around with the order of everything that's there. You might try different musical tracks to see what really fits. But by the way, I, for one, am liking the music that we have here. And at first, there was a part of me that was looking at the video and I'm thinking, well, we're not saying too much. You know, we got it down to what, 24 seconds, 30 seconds of dialogue, somewhere there. And I was starting to get concerned. I was starting to think, is this going to be a good video? Is this going to be something that he wants to watch in the future? Or is this some quick, cheesy little short blurb that is what it is? And I think it's going to come out nicely because of the footage that we have. And that's one of the most important things in something like this is, yeah, I'm going to try to work it in where he's talking to the camera. I do, if possible, I do want people to be able to see him and see this is him talking. But I think that the visual story in this case is more important. And so having good B-roll, taking your time to think of different shots. The reason we shot the interview first was because I knew going into shooting the B-roll, I knew what I was looking to actually get. I had an idea of what would complement what he said. He said he liked doing techniques on partners, so I got some footage of him doing techniques on partners, etc. So definitely keep that in mind when you're shooting. But I'm starting to get a little excited about how this is coming out, just the first couple of clips. And one last thing, to me, this is the most exciting part. Sometimes it can be the most painful part too, but it's the most exciting part when you get that music in place and you start watching it and you say, yes, this is going to work. Because a lot of projects that I work on, there's a point where I actually think, I'm not sure if this is going to work out the way I had hoped it would work out. And so that's always a nice moment when you see things are fitting together. Okay, so let's continue on. Let's watch what we have again, because I do want to, like I said, potentially adjust the jumping jacks.
When I was 4 years old, and now I've been doing it for 7 years.
Actually, it might not be too long. We might even be able to push this further down the line. Let's find those push-ups. Let's see how it looks. We'll push this over. We'll test it out.
For 7 years.
Well, first of all, I apparently cut on part of the reframing of the shot, so I'm going to get rid of that zoom. And I think, there we go. I knew this is the scrap footage I didn't delete because I knew I told him to turn his head up. So this must be what we're looking for. And I'm not sure. I don't think it's matching the tempo that I want. And so instead of doing that, we might leave that. Maybe we'll use it at some point down the line. But let's grab this technique. Let's see how this looks.
Doing it for 7 years.
Now, did you notice it wasn't really starting on the action? We want to cut on the action. I guess it did. It seemed like there was a little let me watch that again. I don't know, it is starting on the action. I'm just not sure it's actiony enough for me. So we'll try this out and then I can always undo it. And let's bring that clip back into play.
One thing I like about karate is like you get to make a lot of new friends.
So if we have that, again, this is all experimenting. I'm listening. I'm trying to kind of feel out where the video needs to go based on the music, based on what he's saying. And so we have some clips of techniques and of friends. Let's see. Let's see if we drag this in.
One thing I like about karate is like you get to make a lot of new friends.
Now something I want to do here, or at least try to do, is we're going to go in and we're going to crop this video as well. I want to see if we can make it tighter so that where this ends on his back, the next video actually also starts on somebody's back. So let's open up the crop tool. Okay, so I want to spare you all the experimentation I just went through. I was trying to crop in on his back, and what I did instead, I did a couple of things. I went and I found another version of the clip. I haven't tested it yet. We're going to do that together. So either we'll both be pleasantly surprised or we'll both be horrified. The other thing I did was I grabbed another technique clip. I kind of rearranged the timeline just a little bit because I know we're going to need another technique clip down the road. So first, let's jump back into it here. And so those are the jumping jacks. This is the technique that we're going to replace. And I'm going to swing it over here. Let's grab this and get it out of the way for a second. And let's just see what it looks like. Well, we need, actually, this is pointless if we don't have the transition, because that's what ultimately I was trying to make this transition from here to this clip as smooth as possible. So let's take a look. Let's jump back a little bit and we'll actually enlarge it and see what we've got. Apparently I grabbed the wrong clip. What did I, oh, this was split, that's why. So no wonder it looked like the clip was so much bigger than it should be. Let's push it back, we're almost there. Drag this clip over, and one more try here. This should be the right order.
One thing I like about karate is like you get to make a lot of new friends.
Good. I like that. We're going to keep that clip in place and we're going to get rid of these clips. Next thing, we're going to push this over and then we're going to grab our techniques. So we're going to start with this one and then we're going to move to this one. And whoops, that might have been wrong. We're going to move to this one because they're actually the same technique. I thought it would be cool to look at him doing the technique in the air, doing it on a person. Then we could try to cut to this one. Is it the same angle? No, that's good. And then how's this as a different angle? We don't want to cut to the same angles. It's just not going to flow as nicely. So, see what this is like now.
My favorite part is when we learn new techniques and then we go and practice them with partners.
I think that's good. And now this might be actually where we finally see him to wrap up the video. And I think that actually would work nice as well. Hey, we've been hearing you. Now let's see you. Let's see what you have to say. Now there's some sparring clips that we are going to cut into this, maybe some push-ups and maybe some other fitness stuff that I can cut into this part of the dialogue. But I think there's definitely going to be a part here where it would just be nice to actually see him, and it would be a good way to wrap it up. So what are we at right now? With this where it is, if this is the end of the movie, the end of the video, and it's not going to be the complete end, there's actually going to be something that we're going to do that's kind of sweet that will wrap things up, or at least I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to use those photos because I think there's some cute photos, and then that will be the end. But we're at, if we look at the movie, we're at 31 seconds, so maybe it's 40 seconds. This sort of video does not have to be long. I think it's going to be actually a better video in the format it's in because it's short, it's digestible. You're not going to sit down, like you're not going to see this video come up in your feed on Facebook or come up on YouTube and go, I just don't have time for that right now. You're going to see it, and we're going to use one of those photos of him. I think is going to be the thumbnail because it's adorable. It's a cute photo, and that should be an attention grabbing thumbnail. And hopefully people will watch this and they'll get psyched, and he'll get psyched because look at how far I've come. Look at where I was when I started. And then other people will see as well that that's what's possible for them. That's what's possible for their kids. So let's see, what is he saying in this last clip?
Someday I'd like to get my black belt, and if I ever do, then I'd be pretty proud of myself.
All right, I think right here we can cut in some sparring footage. Let's see. That should be, that's the second friend clip. We don't need it. I like what we have. I really like what we have, so I'm not going to mess with that. We've got the push-ups here. We have sparring, 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 and sparring. We're going to start with this clip. I'm going to try to start with this clip because I like how it's opening. I like, one of the things that I'm looking at when I'm editing is is there almost a built-in transition from the camera. I don't want to do flips. I don't want to do all these fancy things. I want to rely on cuts, and I want you not to really feel that the cut is there. That's one of my major objectives. There are some other things that I do depending on the type of video. There's different stylized transitions that you can do if it fits what you're working on. For this, I think cuts are more than enough if that actually works all the way through. Sometimes it won't, but we go into that more in some other lessons. So, okay, coming back, let's take a look. Oh, I don't want that there. That's right, we want to see him. So let's...
Just them with partners. Someday I'd like to get...
Now, I think there's a little delay there. Okay. Let's go back. Let's cut. Delete. I'm gonna leave the gap-ish.
with partners. Someday I'd like to get my black belt, and if I ever do, then I'd be pretty proud of myself and like happy that I've gotten that far.
Okay, let's see if we have another sparring clip. We are almost at the end of this. You can see it's a little bit of work, but it's really not too much work. This was shot in one day. I'm editing it here live with you in one day, and I think it's coming out nice. And before we move on to wrapping this up, my goodness, I haven't even saved the project. If the program were to crash right now, I would be heartbroken. So we're gonna save the project as Student Spotlight, Rocco. Now let's see about adding another sparring clip and then those photos. Okay, I'm going to see if we can work this clip in, if it flows. Darn it. Okay, there we go. Let's see. And let's grab a photo and then our other photo. All right. Now, I am going to add some movement to this. So we're going to go to what they call magic motion. I don't use random. I'm going to define what I want it to be. All right, so my mistake, I have to make sure you set the aspect ratio first because I do not want that photo to be kind of cropped in. Now I want to grab the other photo. We're going to set the aspect ratio, 16:9 rather, okay. We're going to go in and add some magic motion. This time, let's start here and we'll kind of do the reverse where now I'm going to zoom in instead of zooming out, and we'll move this way just a little and we'll kind of tighten it up on his face just a little. Okay. Now this is 5 seconds. I don't want these to be too long. And I'm going to overlap them. I am going to add a little transition here. Let's look at how this works now. I'm going to add a space. So earlier I had said I was going to try to do cuts all the way through. Well, now this is kind of a different part of the video. We're wrapping up with a couple of images. And so I think I'm going to punctuate the end of the action with a fade. And I'm going to put a little space in there, a little gap in between. And I'm going to let it fade to black. And then I'm going to fade out when the photo starts. We'll fade back out of black, we'll fade into the photo, and then that will be pretty much the end of the video.
I've gotten that far.
One thing I can tell I want to change is we're going to stretch this back out closer to 5 seconds, and we're going to stretch this one back out just because of that crossfade that I sort of neglected to account for, because I don't want that dissolve is really what it is, a crossfade or a dissolve. I can see that should be good, but we'll find out. All right, one last finishing touch, at least for now. The final product, I'm going to let it sit and I'm going to look at it and I might make some changes, but the final product for now is really what we have. And what I want to do is just finish with some text that says, congratulations on 7 years of hard work and dedication. And then that will be the end of the video. There is one last final thing aside from letting it sit, coming back and deciding are there any little adjustments that I need to make, and that is an important part of this process. Don't be too quick if you're putting the time and effort into making something that's supposed to be special. You know, sometimes I'm quick when it comes to releasing a tutorial, and then I realize I missed something, I cropped wrong, or it was the framing was wrong. But those are minor. But if this is supposed to be special, I'm going to let it sit, because you need that distance so that you can come back and go, yes, it looks good, or you know what, let me change the timing here. Let me add this clip. Because when we're too close to something, we start to lose perspective. So give yourself that distance, if only for an hour or 2 hours. I'm going to kind of sleep on it, and then I'll come back in the morning and I'll look at it before I come in to teach class. The last thing I do need to add, though, is I'm going to edit the music and fade it out. I'm not going to do that with you. That's pretty simple. We've looked at editing audio before, so I'm just going to add a fade at the end. I'll find the appropriate time. Aside from that, let's watch it. Let's see how it looks right now, and then I will potentially include the final version if anything really changes. But if this is it, aside from a fade, that'll be it for this lesson.
I started karate when I was 4 years old, and now I've been doing it for 7 years. One thing I like about karate is you get to make a lot of new friends. My favorite part is when we learn new techniques and then we go and practice them with partners. Someday I'd like to get my black belt, and if I ever do, then I'd be pretty proud of myself and happy that I've gotten that far.
Okay, so that's going to be it. Now you might have noticed, as I only just noticed, you might have caught it sooner. I don't know why I wrote 8 years. He's been in it 7 years, I believe is what it was, right? So I'll go back and I'll fix that. That's the first thing I saw. But I think it looks pretty good. Hopefully you found this little behind the scenes helpful, being able to actually see the process and understand that there's a lot, for me, there's a lot that goes into the editing, and there's a lot in terms of understanding what you're going to edit, what your vision is of what you're working on. That is invested in the shoot. So I'm looking for opportunities to utilize different camera movements that I know will provide a nice, smooth, almost cinematic transition when I go to edit everything. I'm really happy with the way that group shot came out, because if you give me 1 second, we have a glide cam here. And this is a great piece of equipment for getting steady shots. That was not shot with the glide cam because we were on time constraints. Like I said earlier, setting up the composition, getting everything in place, that took time that we didn't have. We had to get set up quick. We had to get everything done in a very short amount of time. We had to be as non-intrusive as possible. And so we did that handheld. I did that handheld with this Canon camera. That's the camera we use today for this particular video, and it's got good stability built in when you have it turned on and you're trying to get a steady shot. Could it be better? Of course. Is it nice for what it is? Do I really like the way it looks for this video? I do. So again, hopefully you found this helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you soon with the next lesson. Take care.